West Virginia, full of beautiful scenes of nature and wonderful people. What could possibly ruin its pristine forests and babbling brooks? A couple of nukes, that's what. Hey there gamers, I'm Sydney with the Leaderboard, and today we are going to look at Fallout 76's World Explained. Hooray! Reclamation Day! So maybe you weren't one of those unfortunate vault dwellers that were experimented on. That doesn't mean you can just chill out all day in the comfy underground in Fallout 76. No. The citizens of Fallout 76 have the most important task of all, rebuilding civilization. That's where Reclamation Day comes in. It's been 25 years since the bombs fell, and it's time for Vault 76 to open its door. When you boot up the game, you'll customize your very own Vault Dweller and set out on this monumental occasion. The outside world is still an utter mess, but you gotta do what you gotta do. That means putting yourself in danger to rebuild, of course. Thank the overseer of Vault 76, who will send you and other players on this quest. You'll be suited up in your Vault 76 jumpsuit, equipped with your Pip-Boy and a few supplies. Players are guided along their quest through audio logs, so you'll never actually see the Overseer. She's already out and about doing her own thing. But this main quest is going to be important. It'll give you the lay of the land and make you a productive member of radioactive society. Along the way, you'll find her construction and assembly mobile platform, or camp, and do various quests. One teaches you how to boil water, while another goes over the basics of cooking food. Ramen steak, anyone? Sounds delicious to me. Fallout 76 might be a little strange since there are no living people to directly interact with, except for other players. Even so, you've got plenty of robots and holotapes to help you with this quest that'll take you all over Appalachia. It's for the betterment of mankind. Fact and fiction. In Fallout 3, we toured the Capital Wasteland, filled with actual buildings and other notable locations from real-life DC. In Fallout New Vegas, we got to see the Hoover Dam, the Vegas Strip, and that wonderful Mojave Desert. Fallout 4, well, there's no end to historical places like the USS Constitution. The only difference is the real ship isn't a rocket-powered home for swashbuckling robots. But that's just the thing about Fallout. It takes some liberty in recreating real-world places. Fallout 76 is no different. While there are specific structures that are accurate to real life, there are entire regions in Fallout 76 that are also inspired by West Virginia's geography. West Virginia comprises many state parks and forests. The forest region in Fallout 76 is inspired by these thick, hilly, and wooded areas. Those woods are so thick, they're still lush after a nuclear war. But, of course, there's plenty of West Virginia landmarks in the forest, too. Camden Park is an actual amusement park that families can enjoy in real life, and for your players. Well, you get to fight for your life there. Now, Bethesda can't outright copy everything, so they replaced the iconic Camden Park sign with a cat instead of a clown. Good move on their part. A nuclear wasteland is scary enough without clowns. Of course, the park isn't going to be as big as the real thing, but it's got rides and attractions in-game. The forest is also home to West Virginia's state capital, Charleston. The golden dome of the beautiful Capitol building is intact in Fallout 76, although it's not looking as structurally sound as its real-life counterpart. But if you've been paying attention to Fallout 76, you might notice a giant white hotel. It's got beautiful pillars and tons of windows with wonderfully maintained lawns by some kind robots, called the White Spring Resort. This is actually a real place called the Greenbrier. Bethesda captured the exterior and interior quite well, but what lies beneath this hotel is way more interesting. Back during the Cold War, the US government created a bunker underneath the Greenbrier Hotel on the off chance the US was ever nuked. It was, quite simply, an actual fallout shelter. And guess what? That real-world bunker makes an appearance in Fallout 76 as well. The forest is brimming with landmarks, but there's a few other places worth mentioning. The Mire is a swampy area that takes after similar bogs in West Virginia. It's also home to Harper's Ferry. This picturesque town sits on the water with two bridges leading into it. While it is a real location in West Virginia, the Fallout 76 no-clip documentary revealed that Bethesda took creative liberties with its geographical location. As for the Cranberry Bog, well, it's not too hard to imagine where that name came from when you look into it. The Cranberry Glades botanical area is a real-world location sitting within the Monongahela National Forest. It, as well as the in-game Cranberry Bogs, is flatter than the other areas and is, of course, quite boggy. Is that a word? Boggy? The Savage Divide sits smack dab in the middle of the Appalachia map. It is an especially mountainous area. While the developers have created their own names, there's several ski resorts that you might find in West Virginia as well. Now, it's no nuclear winter, but mountains are tall, steep, and pretty chilly. Huntersville, found in the game, is also a real place. It is only a single square mile with a real-world population of 73. Don't expect to find any living humans there in Fallout 76 though. It's got a population of super mutants instead. Hopefully not 73 of them. Before the Great War, West Tech released some FEV into Huntersville water supply to test its potency. Seeing how Huntersville is a haven for super mutants, I'd say their experiment was a success. I'd be hard-pressed to talk about West Virginia without mentioning any coal mines. So, why don't we get into the ash heap? Sounds nice, doesn't it? Well, West Virginia has got it all. There's quite a few coal mines there, so you would expect some heavy industrial activity. So yeah, you've got a bunch of ashy mines. A heap, you might say. But then there's Mount Blair. There's more heavy industrial activity happening here in the game. And the real-world counterpart was the site of heavy mining too. Now, we can't say that the Toxic Valley is quite as caustic in real life, but you'll certainly find that Bethesda was inspired by some other real places. Although the Toxic Valley contains a crashed space station, that is probably not something you'll find in West Virginia. And you definitely won't find a new console in the wilds of West Virginia. But you might get lucky if you head to leaderboard.com/giveaway and enter our ongoing console giveaway. Just log in with a special account to enter. All right, back to Appalachia. Mythical monsters. Grafton is another small West Virginia city recreated in Fallout 76. It's also the home of the Grafton monster, which we can't say for certain exists in our world, but it does in the game. Bethesda was inspired to create strange creatures directly from West Virginia's rich folklore. In the 1960s, Grafton locals reported a horrible sight, a large, sometimes headless monster with slimy skin. Bethesda concocted their own version of the Grafton monster, which looks something like a cross between a classic gray alien and a tank from Left 4 Dead. The Fallout 76 version is indeed headless, and it certainly is horrifying. Let's hope it doesn't actually exist like it does in this game. But the Grafton monster isn't the only West Virginia cryptid roaming around Appalachia. Keep your eyes open, and weapons loaded, for the enigmatic Mothman. The Mothman is something of a household name, if you know a thing or two about American folklore. It's really just as it sounds, some sort of insane cross between a moth and a man. It has wings and red eyes, and during the 60s, there were many supposed sightings. Was it just a case of mass hysteria? Who knows? All we know is it's some freaky giant moth in Fallout 76. Fallout is no stranger to including wacky aliens, so of course Bethesda will include some in Fallout 76. In 1952, the Flatwoods monster was an alien, found by some children after a supposed UFO crash. It sounds crazy, but these people were apparently chased by some freaky floating alien straight out of a cheesy horror movie. You can see the real-life sketches for yourself and find that Bethesda recreated it with their own little twist. Or hey, how about this creature with a funky name? The Snallygaster is some crazy dragon creature that first terrorized German immigrants in Maryland during the 1700s. In one case, it was reported to have attacked someone in the early 1900s, but we know that can't be true, right? Well, we do know that you have to watch out for Snallygasters as you explore Appalachia. Traditionally, the Snallygaster has been drawn as a bird-faced dragon, sometimes with tentacles coming out of its mouth. But Bethesda's version takes it a step further. Fallout 76 Snallygasters have 6 legs, a long, acid-covered tongue, and eyes all over its back. The last confirmed cryptid in Fallout 76 is the Wendigo. The Wendigo comes from Native American folklore and isn't necessarily restricted to West Virginia. This lanky, horrifying beast is said to consume human flesh. If only we had the Brotherhood of Steel to save us all from this madness. Factions, and you. You might be asking, there's no NPC humans in Fallout 76. Does that mean there are no factions? Well, it's a little complicated. You see, there are references and visual evidence that factions were in Appalachia, and you'll be able to find them. You'll notice the remnants of a group called the Responders during your main quest. The Responders were a collective of post-apocalyptic civil service folks. After the bombs fell, the surviving police, firefighters, and medical staff banded together to make the wasteland a less terrible place to exist in. Unfortunately, all that's left to encounter are the Responders' robots and other artificial evidence of their existence. Before they were wiped out, there were several divisions among the Responders. The Fire Breathers fought fires, which I admit is a weird name for people who put out flames. Well, you can go through the Fire Breather training and even represent the Responders with a cool Fire Breather uniform. You'll also see hints of the Free States, a group of conspiracy-pushing doomsday preppers. These folks thought it wise to succeed from the US, but then the bombs dropped and that plan didn't turn out. Luckily, they did plan for the nuclear apocalypse, but they created their own bunkers and survived the explosions. Sometime after the fallout cleared, the Free States claimed Harper's Ferry as their new home. That plan also went to hell when a group of ghouls called the Scorched attacked, destroying the faction. The Brotherhood of Steel, Fallout's most iconic faction, had some action in Appalachia as well. I'm just going to cut to the chase so you don't get your hopes up. The Appalachia chapter is all dead. And once again, our ghouly friends, the Scorched, are to blame. Via satellite, Brotherhood of Steel founder Roger Maxson recruited Elizabeth Taggarty to lead the Appalachia chapter of the Brotherhood. She would be the leader, if she was still alive by the time you get out of the vault. Well, of course, they plan to do what the Brotherhood always does. Some good old-fashioned mutant killing, but we know how that turned out. Now, you might be surprised to hear that the Enclave was out and about in Appalachia as well. They made their home underneath the White Spring Resort, in that old bunker. They're no longer there now, also falling victim to the Scorched ghouls. What a horrible thing the Scorched Plague is. Oh, but I almost forgot the most important faction, the Cult of the Mothman. Apparently this group of fanatics summoned the Mothman, and once they did, the Mothman warned the cult members of a flood that would kill them all if they didn't leave. I'm not so convinced that really happened, but who knows. Alright, I do admit they aren't the most important faction, but they sound awesome. They're kind of like Fallout 76's version of the Children of Atom, those irradiated nutballs that pretty much worship atomic bombs. They don't play much of a role, but they're a fun, interesting background element of Fallout's world. Well, that's what you can expect to find in Appalachia. It's a land full of gorgeous views and real-world inspirations. It's got spooky cryptids that want to kill you, and factions that have been killed themselves. It's a tough world out there, but you are armed with this knowledge. I'm sure you'll do just fine. Or maybe not. I don't know. I'm Sydney with the Leaderboard, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our video on the biggest changes that Fallout 76 brings to the table. I hosted it. Also, be sure to subscribe and become part of the Leaderboard Nation. Thanks for watching.